This week for a client, I've been building out this mass training session builder, and I'm going to show you in this video exactly how it works and how it can help you to save hours every week when you're designing mass-based sessions using a knowledge base of running sessions and then utilizing the Zapier AI system to build out customized session plan designs. But the key thing is it's built on your knowledge base. It's not just a generic template. So let's just dive in. The way this system works is that we have a flow or a zap within inside of Zapier, which starts with a form being submitted. Once that form is submitted with all the key details that you want from the session, it's going to format the date and tidy that up into the format that we want. It's then going to look up a knowledge base of mass-based sessions. So for example, short intervals, long intervals, lactate buffer intervals, repeat speed, and so on. It's going to then extract the key information from those sessions that it's found within the knowledge base that you've written. It's then going to design the session plan built on a prompt that I've built for the AI. And then it's going to send the session plan to the coach in an HTML format. So you've got the whole session outlined super professionally, really neatly, with distances calculated, with all of the key variables included. The key thing here is it also takes into consideration other factors like the surface you're running on, any kind of rehab-based considerations, the weather, anything you need to add into that as a variable. It will include that and then make modifications based on those things as well. So it's not just the distances that this chucks out, it's also the entire session plan and a warm-up and the cool down. So if we start by looking at the form, so this is how it looks. The mass training session generator, key benefits as I've outlined here. It's time saving. It's going to save you huge amounts of time because you're having to come up with all these sessions every single week. It can be customized based on the team you're working with and the goals. It's science-backed because all the sessions that it builds are based on mass-based research. That's part of the knowledge base that I've built this on. It's comprehensive because it includes the warm-up, the session plan, and recovery phases, and it can also be used in sequence. So it can build out multiple weeks of progressions as well. So the form looks like this. You're going to put your name in. We're going to put your email address. We're then going to put how long the session is going to be. In this case, let's say it's a half-an-hour session. Intensity, let's say we're kind of in season, it's more of a top-up based session. So let's say it's going to be a medium intensity. The number of athletes, let's say we're going to work with 20. Team skill level is going to be, let's say, fairly advanced. Primary training goal in this period is development of speed endurance. Training environment, let's say we're going to do this on the field. And then, as you can see here, we've got what the special considerations are. So let's say in this context, you've got 20 athletes, but one of the athletes is coming back from a grade 1 hamstring tear and is gradually increasing running volume. Please consider this in the session design. Let's put that as the first consideration. Second consideration is we're in season and need the volume to be appropriate for this period. 3, let's say we are game day -3. And 4, let's say that this session is part of a lighter training day, just for kind of the context of what this is going to be. Now, what we can do in the last bit here is then include when the session date is. That's going to include it in the email that comes through. And before I click generate and it comes through on the email, I'm just going to show you what the knowledge base looks like that it's going to look up, and I'm going to show you the prompt that I've built for this as well. So what it's going to do is when I hit submit, it's going to, first of all, format the date correctly. It's then going to look up inside of the interval knowledge base that I've built. Now, this includes a variety of different interval types. We've got long intervals, short intervals, repeats, Tabatas, pyramids, fartleks, and so on. Any kind of mass-based session that you would typically use. You could also include grids in this. It's not exhaustive. You can include as many different types as you like. What the primary outcome is of that session type, the name of the protocol, whether that's like a modified Tabata, repeat sprints, 30-30s, 4x4s, whatever it is, the kind of format you want to complete. What the work duration is, the rest per rep, the rest per set, how many sets and reps, the intensity, like percentage of mass, and then the distance. So what it's going to do as part of the prompt, which I'll talk through in a second, is it's going to calculate the appropriate distances for a squad of athletes based on their individual mass scores, the mass percentage that you want them to work at, and then obviously the duration of that interval. Whether this is appropriate for intermediates, beginners, or advanced. So for example, if you're doing like max effort repeat sprints, then obviously that's more of an advanced method, whereas perhaps more kind of traditional 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, longer intervals might be more for like an intermediate level. But again, all this can be modified. Session planning notes. So this is one of the aerobic capacity intervals. Just put, it's excellent for developing aerobic capacity in VO2 max. Monitor heart rate recovery between intervals, ideally. Key factors in this session: heart rate recovery, the technique maintenance as the intensity builds across the course of the sets, pacing strategy, making sure the players are sticking to the right pacing strategy. And then we've also included a warm-up as well. So in here, just outlined, it won't pop up, but I've essentially outlined a ramp protocol within that. So you've got key pulse raising activities, mobilization activation, and some potentiation activities at the end for it also to look up. So it's going to create that warm-up based on the template too. So just to skip back to the overall flow of this, like I explained earlier, when we hit submit on the form, it's going to format the right date. It's going to look up the knowledge base I've just explained. And once it's found the right session based on the input data from the form, it's then going to design the session plan. So the prompt now looks like this. I'm going to use the OpenAI GPT-4 model. The input fields we're going to include then is the session duration, the session intensity, the team skill level, training goal, the environment, considerations, size and warm-up. So those are all the kind of input variables that have come from the input form and the knowledge base. And then this is the prompt. So the prompt is that you're an expert mass training coach. Generate a comprehensive professional training session plan based on the coach's requirements and the recommended session template from the knowledge base. Critical session duration constraint. Basically make sure that the total session time we've inputted, in this case 30 minutes, it must ensure that the full session fits into that, and the warm-up and the cool-down fit within that time frame too. So it's going to essentially truncate the full session to fit into the time constraints that we've allowed for, calculating the rest intervals that would be required between the different reps, if it's a longer interval between the sets and so on. And then it's going to work out how much time to allocate it. In this case, we're going to use 25% of total session time for the warm-up, 60% for the main session, and 15 minutes for a cool-down period. The session requirements, who the coach is, and then again, it's just reiterating what the input variables are around the intensity, team level, size, primary goals, the environment, and so on. And then the recommended template from the knowledge base. So what the protocol name is, it's going to extract that from the knowledge base, the interval type, the work duration, the sets, the reps, and so on, and calculated distances, what the primary outcome is, planning notes, and then key factors. Now, the key thing next is to make sure that the duration fits correctly into this model. So it's not going to kind of create a 60-minute session when you're asking for a 30-minute session. So, for example, if it's 30 minutes, then make sure the warm-up's 7 to 8, the main's 18, and the cool-down's 4 to 5. Those are the kind of constraints we've built in. And more if it's a longer base session. Adapt the template to fit the main session time. So we've just kind of included here, look, let's reduce the sets of the reps for shorter durations. Let's make it longer if it's a longer duration, and then adjust the rest period to fit exactly correctly. State the exact durations, and then generate a complete mass training session, including an overview of the session, so what it's trying to achieve, the warm-up based on the warm-up that it's built, the main mass interval set. Then we've got the kind of the format and how it needs to look. So the work duration, the sets, the reps, total main session time, intensity, and so on. And then also it's going to include the distance prescriptions for us, which is super helpful. So you can obviously play around with what these scores are that you've included. But what I've put down for now is the target distance for mass speeds of a 3.5, a 3.75, a 4, 4.25, and a 4.5 mass score based on speed times by work duration times by intensity percentage. So what it will do is, if it's going to give you a 15 on, 15 off session, it will calculate all of the distances for those range of different scores, so that across a squad of athletes, you know exactly what the targets are for those different individuals. Coaching cues, kind of key bits to consider, safety considerations, equipment, and then progress tracking. And then as a final check, just make sure that it perfectly fits inside of the time constraints that we've allocated to it. And then finally, it's going to send a session plan to the coach via the email they've inputted into the form. It's going to come in an HTML format, and without diving into what the HTML formatting looks like, essentially it's going to make it look nice. So you've got a nice session plan that's going to land in the inbox. So now we know how it works. Let's give it a try. So we'll go back to the form we inputted earlier, all the key variables. We're going to hit generate my session, and we're now going to have a look at the inbox and see how long this takes. And it should be well under 60 seconds for it to create that session in the right HTML format for us. And whilst it's doing this, just to reiterate, what it's now doing is obviously looking up into the knowledge base. It's looking for the right type of session based on the input variables. If you remember, we were looking at a speed endurance session in season of sort of intermediate intensity, so not too long, but it should be extracting now a more of a repeat sprint focus based on what we're trying to achieve within the session. It's then going to add the constraints of what we've included in that form, and then it's going to email it across, and there we go. So well under 60 seconds. It has now arrived. So this is the format it will land in the inbox. So your custom mass session training session. It's going to tell you the coach's name, session design, how long it's going to take, the size, the goal, and then the environment. So this is now the format. So the session overview is it's improving speed endurance with a high intensity interval set aimed at enhancing aerobic power. Coaches should ensure athletes maintain intensity throughout the session whilst being mindful of the returning athletes' volume requirements. Total duration is 30 minutes. So we've got a 7-minute ramp protocol. It's going to give us 2 minutes of multi-directional movements, glute bridges, lunges, plank shoulder taps, and then some Spider-Man stretches. And that's going to form the kind of core of our ramp protocol. The sort of end there has been truncated, and it would normally include some kind of potentiation component, like some rolling sprints, for example. But as it's shortened this down, we've only got 30 minutes. It's actually just decided to truncate it and remove that component. But obviously, you could easily just include a rolling sprint there just to make sure you've got some potentiation. The main interval set then is going to be 20 on, 20 off. That's 18 minutes. Work duration of 3 sets of 20 seconds. The reps per set is 10. Rest per rep 20 seconds. Rest per set 3 minutes. So the total is then 18 minutes at 115%, varied by individual athletes, will be executed to the next field. Distance targets then. So as we inputted earlier, we wanted to make sure we've got these distance targets across a range of different scores. So now you can see that a 3.5 athlete needs to be hitting 80.5 meters. A 3.75 athlete needs to be hitting 86 meters. 4.0 meters per second hits 92 meters, and so on. So now you've got clear goals, clear targets for a range of different scores. A cool down protocol of some light jogging for 5 minutes and some static stretching. What the key coaching notes are: so maintaining speed if speed drops. Safety considerations: monitoring the returning athlete closely to ensure they're comfortable with volume. Provide modifications for any exercises if discomfort is reported. Ensure sufficient hydration. So it could be that we also include into this that we want to have an alternative volume for that returning athlete. For example, like 25% reduction in total training volume if we've got a returning athlete. We could easily include that within the prompt as well. What equipment you need, and then progress tracking as well. So keeping track of each athlete's work output, recording times and distances in the weeks leading up to competition as well. So all of that has been created within 60 seconds from a simple form where you put exactly what you want from the training session. It's going to look up the right type of session. It's going to design it for you. It's going to build it for you. It's going to give you the considerations. It's going to give you the distance targets. And you can then print this off. If you go over to here, and you would have a nice and clean session design ready to print out if you wanted to do that, or you could just obviously access it digitally as well. So super powerful. And if you're interested in how this could work for you, or building something that's a little bit more bespoke for you based on your own requirements, then drop me a message down below and I will let you know exactly how this all works, and we can book a chat and have a chat around how this would work for you.